Some jokes, you laugh at them at first, until one day, you can't laugh anymore. Some stories, you listen to them casually, until they become part of your own life. I never imagined that a careless remark I made 3 years ago would be like a poisoned needle, dragging me into endless darkness. Since then, I've known no peace, day or night. Every university has a few creepy, haunted legends. Our medical school's lab building was no exception. Back then, I was still the type who loved stirring things up and joining in on the fun. That night, a cold wind howled through the lab building. It felt like the perfect setting for some spooky talk.
Looking back now,
I have no idea what was going through my head. Annan, could you please stop shaking your leg? My pathology notes are practically doing the Samba. If I don't get this stuff down soon, I'm gonna flunk for real.
Come on, Senior Ling, relax. I mean, look at this night. The dark sky, the chilly wind, it's perfect for ghost stories. I just read this crazy urban legend about our lab building. It's so good, it'll make your hair stand up.
Oh, please. I'm a medical student, a loyal successor to scientific materialism. They're just the result of the brain being overly fatigued. Who's got time for that nonsense? Better to go memorize a few more neural pathways.
Now, Senior, you're behind the times. This one's a real spine chiller. They say that every year on May 1st at exactly midnight, when the central tower clock chimes the hour, if you're inside the lab, and you light a single lamp, and then take a pen and toss it behind you, the pen starts writing by itself, or a ghost crawls out to say hi.
Oh my dear sister, have you been writing scaring stories again?
No, seriously. If you throw the pen, and you don't hear it hit the ground, that means there's something unclean behind you. Standing there, silently watching.
Oh my god, haha. That's hilarious. Where'd you find that one? Some random street-side horror novel? If you don't hear it hit the floor, maybe it just landed in the mop bucket. Or some janitor walked by and picked it up. Can you let me study for my post-grad exam in peace? Back then, I was just a naive kid. I thought if I could scare our top student, I'd feel a sense of accomplishment. But who could have guessed? That one stupid joke would end up being a death sentence for Senior Ning. The next day, the sun was shining bright, but the air inside the lab building was colder than ice. The story I had told the night before, laughing and joking as if it were nothing, suddenly took on a horrifying reality.
Hey, did you hear? Senior Ning died in the lab last night.
What? Wasn't she in great health? She stayed up late all the time, always so full of energy.
Yeah, they said it was sudden cardiac arrest. Such a shame.
Although the official cause of death was said to be a sudden heart attack, I knew, deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. 3 years passed in a blur. Now, I'm just another face in the crowd of post-grad exam candidates. I've become the very image of who she was back then, buried in books, clinging to a fragile hope, spending countless nights and days studying in this same old building. But fate is a cruel, twisted thing. Once I pass this exam, I'll finally be free of this cursed place. Come on. You're not weak, you're the best. You've got this. Why is this creepy lab building suddenly so quiet? No, it's fine.
as long as you don't look, don't think, nothing will happen.
Ugh, I'm exhausted. What the? It is almost midnight. That's it. I need to get back to the dorms. I don't know why I did it, but instead of heading back, I found myself walking toward the lab where Senior Ning had died. The room looked like it had been left untouched for years. A thin layer of dust coated the surfaces. The air still seemed to hold a lingering trace of that same cold despair from 3 years ago. I didn't know why I was doing this. Maybe I was looking for redemption, or maybe deep down, I just wanted proof. To confirm, if ghosts really exist, I threw the pen back. Nothing. No sound. How is that possible?
Still nothing.
Am I hallucinating? Yeah, that must be it. I've been awake since. I am just thinking too much. I have to leave here.
If, in the middle of the night while you're asleep, a woman in white with long hair suddenly appears beside you. What would you do? Today's story comes from a netizen named Muna. It recounts a real and eerie experience he had during his internship at a hospital. To help you better understand, I will narrate this story from the first-person perspective. Back in 2016, I was attending a medical school in New York. The school had a rule that students must intern at a designated hospital for an entire year before they could graduate. To make things easier, I found a shared apartment near the hospital. Although it was just a small single room, it had enough space with a double bed and a small sofa. The room was also relatively newly furnished, which made me very satisfied, especially given the extremely low rent, which was irresistible for a student. So I signed a 1-year lease and moved in. The first month passed peacefully, but on August 15th, 2016, something strange happened. I had worked overtime and returned to my room exhausted. As soon as I opened the door, I noticed that the stuffed toy I always kept on the bed was now sitting on the sofa. I have a bit of a cleanliness obsession, so I only use the sofa when guests come over. I would never put my sleeping companion toy there, but since it was late and I was tired, I didn't think much of it and just went to wash up and sleep. Around 2 a.m., I suddenly felt an itch in my right eye. Gradually, the itch turned into pain, which became so severe it woke me up. When I turned on the light, I could barely see with my right eye, so I quickly got up to look in the mirror. I saw that my right eye was swollen badly. I went to the fridge, grabbed an ice pack, and applied it to relieve the pain. After it eased up a little, I fell back asleep groggily. The next morning, my eye had fortunately gone down in swelling and my vision returned to normal, so I went to work feeling relieved. After work, I was still exhausted from the previous night and planned to get a good night's sleep. But again, around 2 a.m., I experienced sleep paralysis. I heard someone violently twisting the doorknob to my room, the sound echoing loudly. Though I was terrified, I desperately wanted to see who was outside, but my body felt frozen. I couldn't even move a finger. I could only listen to the constant rattling of the doorknob. I don't know how long it lasted, but whoever it was failed to open the door and eventually stopped. I drifted off to sleep again in a daze. The next morning, I immediately called the property agent to ask if anyone had tried to open my door the night before. The agent replied that there had been no one. I thought maybe I was just overly stressed, so I searched online for how to deal with sleep paralysis. The internet was full of vague answers. Some said to grind your teeth, others said to try moving your fingers and toes, and some even suggested cursing in your head. None of the suggestions seemed convincing, but on the night of August 17th, something happened that I still can't explain. That day, I finally didn't have to work overtime and returned home early. After washing up, I was about to go to sleep. Because of the past 2 nights, I was especially anxious. I checked every corner of the room, locked the door, and placed a cup of water on the doorknob so I'd hear if someone came in. Then I sat on the bed, reading a book to calm my nerves and lull myself to sleep. But as they say, what you fear most is what comes for you. Just as I was starting to feel drowsy, I was hit with sleep paralysis again. My mind was completely clear, but my body couldn't move at all. I clearly saw a woman in a white dress with long flowing hair appear beside my bed, holding a bowl of plain white rice. Though I couldn't see her face clearly, she seemed to be muttering something continuously in a soft voice. She tried to feed me the rice, saying things like, "Eat up, good child, eat more." Maybe because I wasn't moving or responding, she grew angry. Her voice turned resentful and she growled, "Why won't you take your medicine? You better eat it." Her voice was terrifying. I tried hard to see her face, but I couldn't. I also couldn't break out of the sleep paralysis. My mind, however, remained very alert. I could even recall what I had just read in the book. Suddenly, I remembered the internet advice about fighting sleep paralysis. I thought, might as well try everything. I tried grinding my teeth, moving my fingers and toes, and finally cursed out loud in my mind, "Get lost!" To my surprise, that word actually came out of my mouth. As soon as I shouted it, the woman vanished instantly. I shot up from bed, drenched in cold sweat. I didn't dare go back to sleep and just sat there until morning. When it was light out, I called my family and told them what had happened. My mother, upon hearing this, went to a village spiritual elder and got a protective talisman for me, which she mailed to me and told me to hang on the door. She said it would ward off evil. Strangely enough, ever since I hung that talisman on the door, nothing weird ever happened again. When my internship ended, I immediately moved out of that apartment. After that, I never dared to go for cheap rent again. If you're in a stairwell late at night and you can never seem to reach the floor where your apartment is, unable to return home, what would you do? Today's story is a submission from a fan named Sandra. It recounts a true, bizarre experience they had a few years ago with their ex-boyfriend. To make the story more vivid and easier to understand, I'll narrate it in the first person. My ex-boyfriend and I were college classmates. In 2018, right after we graduated, we both started working. Since we were new to the workforce, our income wasn't high, but we both wanted a certain quality of life, so we decided to rent a one-bedroom apartment in a high-end neighborhood in Harbin on a monthly basis. After paying the rent, we were left with barely any money. To ease our financial burden, my boyfriend's parents planned to buy us a home. At the time, our relationship was very good, and we were planning to get married the following year. So this home would also become our future marital residence. However, new apartments were quite expensive back then and located far from where we worked. After weighing the pros and cons, we decided to buy a second-hand apartment in the same upscale community we were renting in. Although it was a resale unit, it had a high cost-performance ratio because the original apartments came with quality renovations. We found a unit online that we were satisfied with in terms of both price and floor level. When we reached the designated floor, we noticed that several doors had talismans posted on them. The agent explained these were for attracting wealth. My boyfriend and I didn't think much of it at the time. We just assumed the previous owners were superstitious. After we bought the place, we adopted a 1-year-old golden retriever from a friend and named him Jack. Back then, we were both night owls, especially my boyfriend, who often stayed up until 1 or 2 a.m. Because of that, we usually walked the dog around 10 p.m. when the neighborhood was quiet and Jack could run around freely. If it was too late, we'd take him to the underground parking garage or stairwell to let him play. We made sure she got plenty of activity every day. This incident happened around midnight one night. We were cleaning the apartment and had just finished mopping the floors. My boyfriend noticed that the living room floor was still damp, so he opened the door to let the air circulate and help it dry. He forgot that Jack might slip out through the open door. When I went to close it, I realized he was already gone. We lived on the 8th floor, about halfway up the building. My boyfriend and I split up to search the stairwell. He went upstairs, I went down. I checked each floor carefully. When I got to the ground floor, I didn't see Jack anywhere, and the building's entrance was shut, so she definitely couldn't have gotten out. I quickly called my boyfriend. He said he had already searched the top floor and hadn't seen Jack. I told him, "Let's search again. Maybe she's just sitting near someone's door." After hanging up, I continued searching. A few minutes later, I reached the 7th floor and still didn't see her. I called my boyfriend again to ask where he was, and he said he had just reached the 2nd floor. At that moment, I was completely baffled. There's only one stairwell in the building, and I had checked every floor thoroughly. The fire doors on each floor's entryway were all closed. How could my boyfriend and I have missed each other? Feeling a bit annoyed, I said, "I'm coming down to meet you. Don't hang up, just keep heading up." But by the time I had reached the 2nd floor, I still didn't see him. Then suddenly, his voice came through the phone saying he had already reached the 5th floor. At that moment, a scene from a horror movie I'd once seen popped into my head about a couple in a parking garage. Even though they were just steps apart, they couldn't see each other. I couldn't help but shiver all over. I didn't want to worry my boyfriend, so I forced myself to sound calm and said, "I'm heading home first. You keep looking carefully." After hanging up, I realized my legs had gone weak. They no longer obeyed me. Forcing down the fear inside, I started climbing back up toward the 8th floor, one slow, agonizing step at a time. But when I finally made it back up, I was completely stunned. I had somehow reached the 9th floor. Thinking I must have misread it, I rubbed my eyes hard. But no, it really was the 9th floor. So I turned back and started walking down again. Then I found myself back on the 7th floor. I went up and down like that 2 or 3 times, but no matter what, I just couldn't reach the 8th floor. I pulled out my phone and called my boyfriend again. But this time, his phone wouldn't connect. I was so terrified I didn't know what to do. I just crouched down in the stairwell and started crying uncontrollably. After crying for a while, I suddenly remembered there was an elevator. I ran to the 9th floor elevator lobby and got in. I pressed the button for the 8th floor. Luckily, the elevator worked fine. As soon as the doors opened, I ran out and quickly opened the door to our apartment. I immediately called my boyfriend again. Thankfully, this time he picked up. He said he had found Nuno. I told him not to take the stairs and to come back via the elevator right away. When he returned, I told him what had just happened. He also felt something was really off. After I had said I was going home, he had continued searching for Nuno on his own. But while walking down from the top floor, even after more than 10 minutes, he still hadn't reached the ground floor. Normally, when we walked Jack in the stairwell, it took just 3 to 5 minutes to reach the bottom. We both sat quietly for a long while, trying to process everything. Then we looked at the time and realized it was already past 1 a.m. Somehow, all that time had passed without us noticing. From that day on, our habits completely changed. For months afterward, we never dared to stay up late again. Even when cleaning the house, we made sure it was done on weekend mornings. And we never walked Nuno in the stairwell or parking garage again. Back then, we didn't understand why Jack always barked at night while in the parking garage. But now, it seemed clear. She must have seen something invisible to human eyes. After this incident, I started getting injured and falling ill frequently. Both my physical and mental health seemed off. Our families had originally encouraged us to get married soon, hoping it would bring better fortune. But in the end, my ex-boyfriend and I didn't end up together. After the incident, it was like he had become a completely different person. From being attentive and caring, he started working overtime constantly and barely came home. When he did talk to me, he was always impatient, even yelling at me sometimes. We argued a few times, but nothing changed. Later, I accidentally discovered that he had been having an ambiguous relationship with a female coworker. That final time, I didn't fight with him. I simply ended the relationship calmly.